We had a very long gap. Maybe we should have sent in a message a little earlier. We forgot. Should have been done so that people would not be in any doubt. In fact, I wanted that we should all sort of review what we've done. It's about 3 weeks now since we've had a class. Anyway, we will do a quick review before we start. I was away in Arunachal Pradesh. That part of the country I had never been before. Interesting trip. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavarthaye Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvisha vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Bhadram Karni Vishnunyama Devaha Bhadram Pashim Akshabhetya Jatraha Tirairangai Shashtavagam Sastanobhi Vishema Devahi Tayyadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vridhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastakshyo Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspati Dadatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This Upanishad, along with the Mundaka Upanishad and Mandukya Upanishad, belongs to the Atharva Vedas. And one of the main prakriyas these use, there has been method to try and help us understand the nature of the self, is called Avastatraya Prakriya. All Upanishads will start you from a point which you can relate to. Avastatraya is one such. As individuals, we go through life in these three states only. There is no other state. Either we are awake and we are dealing with the world. And to deal with the world, we need both the physical sharira, the sthula sharira, and the antakarnani, the sukshma sharira, to be active. Otherwise, you cannot interact with the world. If you didn't have the physical sharira, there's no interaction with the world. Even if you had the physical sharira, but your antakarna are not operational. Antakarna means mind, buddhi, senses, etc. So the senses go out and interact with the world, collect the data and bring it back. They are processed by the manas and the buddhi. And then karma indriyas go out and respond to the world. This is the whole process. So you need both. From there, we can go either to deep sleep, to Shuptisthanam, or we can go to sort of a semi-sleep. From the Jagat, we can go there. I'm sorry, from Jagat, you can't go there. You only can go to deep sleep. From the deep sleep, you can either wake up back to the Jagat Sthanam, or you can go to create your own Jagat. It is your creation, the individual's creation. Entire Jagat that he or she has known in the waking state. And from that dream state, you either wake up, come to the Jagrat state, in which case you often remember, oh, I dreamt this happened, the dream, I saw like this. And then say, I wish the dream could continue because it was so nice. Or that, thank God, the dream finished, it's only a dream. In my waking state, I don't have to go through all the torture that I went through in my dream. Or one can go back to deep sleep. From that sapna state, you can go back to the deep sleep state. In which case, when you come back to Jagrat state, you often don't remember what you dreamt. You have a vague memory, I dreamt something last night. But you can't recollect what you dreamt. Because you've gone back into the Sushupti Sthanam, and from there you have arisen to the waking world. Now, why does Shastra, why do these Upanishads take pains to discuss these in such detail? What is active during the waking state, what is not active, what is active during the dream state, what is not active, similarly, what is not active during the deep sleep state, why, what happened, why can you go from which state to which state, all that it analyzes in great detail. Here, Brahmaji is doing the same analysis for Ashwanana's sake and for our sake. In the world, also people do this analysis. Particularly dream state, there's a lot of analysis. I think Freud was one of the earliest to do that. And he wrote a book called Interpretation of Dreams. He was very focused on one simple area. So everything would have symbolism. So if one sees that you're going through a tunnel in the dream, that's some symbolism. Everything is symbolism for him. But he's done a lot of work on it. Other scientists have done work on dream by studying the eye, what is called REM, the movement of the eye. And that with that they study that you're dreaming, called rapid eye movement, REM. So a lot of studies done there. Why should Upanishad, which we consider a pramana, restate what is already available to us from other means of knowledge? It's only restatement. It might have stated that before these interpretations came, but it's something that's available to other means of knowledge. If it's available to other means of knowledge, we don't consider it a pramana. It is not so much to help us understand the three states, but to show that we as beings go through these states and recognize the Swampada. Every jiva goes through these three states, whole life is nothing but this. You're awake, you sleep, you dream, you awake back, over and over and over again. This we can all relate to. The analysis of the Tvampada, of that famous Mahavakya, Tat Tvamasi. Why start with this analysis? Why do we want to understand, okay, this is what I am? My experiences are only in and around these three states. To then show that these three states are mutually independent states. You cannot be a dreamer and a waker at the same time. Many people do that. They daydream. But you cannot dream as defined by this when you're awake. Nor can you dream when you're in deep sleep. You're in deep sleep, nothing is available. Similarly, when you're in deep sleep, you're not a waker. You're not a dreamer. When you're dreaming, you're neither a waker nor a sleeper. There are three different entities mutually exclusive of each other. And yet, in this constantly changing states that we see, somewhere we recognize it is the same entity which is in deep sleep state, which is in dream state, which is in Jagrat state. The Shastra is trying to point out that while you consider yourself as the dreamer, yourself as the waker, yourself as the deep sleeper, none of them can really be you. Let me rephrase it. You can be none of them because they're constantly changing. There has to be something in that, in the three states, which is common, unchanging, which you can identify as you. That's why the Devadatta example is such a wonderful example. In a constantly changing physical body, subtle body, all the senses, all the thinking process, all the thoughts, all the ideas, and every single cell in the physical body is constantly changing. And yet you recognize that there is something common in the Devadatta who you knew 20 years ago, the Devadatta today, in which there is not an element which looks common. You recognize that there has to be something common because the same Devadatta, in the same eye. You look at yourself in a picture taken when you were a baby. Can I be the same? I am now a very learned, grey-haired, spectacled person. How can that be I? So many things which look so different, you can't even identify. In fact, most people, if you look at somebody's baby picture, you cannot even identify the same person. Sometimes you yourself cannot identify. And yet you know that there is the same person. There is something which is common, which is unchanging. So this prakriya tries to bring us to that state of thinking, right? I know this. This is Tvampada. So we go through these verses like Saeva, same jiva. Maya parimohita atma. Shariram asthaya. Karoti sarvam. I do. I'm the doer. I'm the karta. I am also the bhokta. Striyannapanadi vichitra bhogaihi. I am awake. I identify with the Sharira, Sthula, Sukshma Sharira, and I do something or the other. I have just plans, I have these ideas, I'm producing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing the other, and I am enjoying the fruits of all my action. Yannapanadi vichitra bhogai, varieties of bhogaha. Such person is called Saeva Jagrat Paritriptameti. Gains certain relative tripti. At that time, it looks full. There are times when in the waking state, you tend to make a statement. Oh, I am totally satisfied. I need nothing else. In that state, there's no need to do anything else. I'm complete. You recognize yourself as completeness itself. Paritriptameti. The same jiva, saeva. Swapne, sajiva, same jiva. Sukha dukkha bhokta. That jiva creates his own or her own jagat and experiences both pleasure and pain. To experience pleasure and pain in the waking state, Ishvara has provided all the objects of experience. But there are some which, with your given Sharira, you cannot undergo an experience of a certain nature in that waking state. But you have come to this Janma to experience those karma phala, what something you've done earlier. You live in Africa or India or Sri Lanka, wherever. You have never seen snow in your life. Given that you are settled there, there is no chance that you will ever see snow. Forget about experiencing snow. But your prarabdha karma is there, that phala is there. You have to go through a period of intense cold. Your physical body has to go through a intense cold. You can't do it with the Sharira and the waking hours. And yet you would experience that. Go into the intense cold. Despite layers of clothing, you keep shivering. You can do that only when you create your own world. How do you know there is snow? You never experienced snow, but you've read about it. You've seen pictures of it. You've watched movies where people are skiing. You know that it is extremely cold in those places. So you create your own jagat where it is really cold. And you experience that cold. And you can't stand it because you're not used to that cold. You're only used to very hot weather. You're in a place like Chennai where it is hot, hotter and hotter, three seasons. And suddenly, because your prarabdha is such that you have experienced cold, you dream up a complete new place. And you experience the cold. So, swapne sajivaha sukha dukkha bhokta. Some sukha dukkha which he cannot possibly experience in the waking state. Swamayaya kalpita jivaloke. Creates his own or her own complete pancham. Everything. all the objects required to go through certain experiences. You have to exhaust those experiences, no? Because you've been given the Sharira and you've given allocated certain prarabdha of experience. So you create your own world. With no will involved, you can't decide that I'm going to dream about Iceland, that your plane crashed in the Andes and you're stuck in that cold at minus 25 degrees. You can't will yourself into dreaming that. But you've seen a movie where this happened, a plane crashed, and a whole bunch of people got stranded on the Andes with no possibility of rescue. You can dream that. Not by your volition, but because your prarabdha was pushing you into doing it. And you experience all that. Swamayaya kalpita jivaloke. And then this jivaloka that we kalpita is all mithya, because you know it is non-self-existent. When do you know? Not when you're dreaming. Prabodha samaye. You know it is mithya. What is mithya? That which does not exist but appears to exist. And what creates it? Our famous Maya, which is also mithya. Aghatita ghatita patiyasi Maya. Maya makes things happen which look impossible. That's why you compare Maya to a magician. Something looks impossible, but it looks as if it's happening. That is mithya. One good definition of mithya. Something which does not exist appears to exist. Something which is impossible appears to have happening. So that Swapna Sthanam is where you can understand mithya. And if you understand mithya, and the brain thinks, if that is mithya, and from there I wake up to a Jagrat Sthanam, why is it not possible that this is also mithya? Why should such a thought come? Because Shastra says it is also mithya. Because you have Shraddha in the Shastra, you study that and say, oh my God, how are you saying this looks so real? The Shastra says, yes, it does look real. The Swapna also looked real to you as long as you were in the Swapna Avastha. That whole Jagat you created was absolutely real at that time. It is possible that you will also wake up from this state of what you call Jagrat. So it makes us think. If we understand mithya, we are halfway home. And for that, we have been given this wonderful opportunity of dreaming. This Jagrat Avastha, we say, is Ishvara Shrishtam. But this is also Ishvara Shrishtam Mithya only. Swapna Avastha is Maya Shrishtam. It's Maya. I can easily recognize that because I created it, I get out of it, I know it's my Mithya. It's why in the Jagrat state, we need to be Advaitan. Pray to Ishvara. Help me understand. There you don't need any pray to anybody. You created it. So you get out of it, you know it is Mithya. No, what will happen? What happens when I die? Hey, then you don't know. This is knowledge that you have to gain when you are in the Sharira or in our next Sharira or the next Sharira. You have to know only one sthanam where you can know. The buddhi which has also been given to us by Ishvara. If Swapna sthanam is mithya, what about when you go to deep sleep? Wonderful space. Deep sleep is moksha. Deep sleep is Ananda Swarupa. But tamasa abhibhuta sanna, I don't recognize it. This analysis of the three states and what is common between these three states, which makes these three states possible, is myself, is the I that I'm searching for, is consciousness, Chaitanya, formless, unchanging, partless. Now you know why Shastra uses all the negative descriptions. Every day you do a prayer in the morning called Prathasmaranam. One line in that says, Yan neti neti vachanehi nigama avochu. Shastra tells, naiti, 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 no, 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 none of this. Every day remind yourself. Because once you're in the waking state looks real. So every morning when you get up from the state of moksha, which is unknown because you are not available to know, you get up in the morning and remind yourself that which is I is all this, not definable, not available for words, not available for senses. So from that sleep, when you get up in the morning, you recognize that I need to reassess my understanding of myself. Because what happens as soon as you get up, you become aware of the physical body and the Sukshma Sharira, and that immediately the identification with this abhimana comes flooding in. Because you have to get up, you have to interact with other people, you have to interact with the rest of the world, you need this, and therefore all other thoughts get shut out. I am this body, I am this mind. Even though all your logic tells you that is wrong, you still have to live with it. So before you start that interaction process, you remind yourself of your nature. Sushupti kale sakale viline tamo vibhuta sukharupameti. This is the sukharupam. I've just got out of the sukharupam. Why did I get out of that? If it is sukharupam, I should just stay there. Hey, you were in the swapna state where you created your own jagat to undergo certain experiences. But that's not enough. You still have a whole lot of prarabdha to undergo, for which you are given the sharira. Till you exhaust all of them, you cannot keep sleeping. No, Swami. I'll sleep as late as I can. Right? Sleep till 10 o'clock. No, I have slept. I sleep for 36 hours. Very good for you. What happens at the end of the 36 hours? One gets a feeling lousy. Ask anybody who slept for a long time. He doesn't get up happy. He doesn't recognize that in sleep he was Anandaswarupa. Because the rest is only forced. Everything looks wrong. Instead, you get up and you accept that you have to go through certain prarabdha karma. And in that process of going through the prarabdha karma, you have reminded yourself that this physical body and the subtle sharira is not behind. So the next verse that we studied, I don't know if you finished it. Let's read that together. Punashcha Jatam. Verse 15. Punashcha janmantara karma yogat.
Punashcha janmantara karma yogat.
Sa eva jivas swapiti prabuddha.
Sa eva jivas swapiti prabuddha.
Puratraye kridati yascha jivaha.
Puratraye kridati yascha jivaha.
Satvastu jatam sakalam vichitram.
Satvastu jatam sakalam vichitram.
Till here it is still Tampada. Punashcha janmantara karma yoga. Not this janma, all the karma I have done in so many janmas, because of which I have certain prarabdha, that prarabdha has to be undergone. So the same jiva, you remember, see these 4 verses, keeps on talking sayeva jiva. Swapiti here means both dream and sleep state, and prabuddha, round and round. And now slowly introduces that which is unchanging. This is all changing, cannot be I. Puratraye kridati yascha jivaha. If none of these is I, what is it that's common in all of this? What is that is kridati? Use the word kridati. Sporting in all of these, in all the 3 states. Puratraye kridati yaha cha jivaha. That is what creates everything. That's karanam. Tataha tu jatam sakalam vichitram. Now when somebody says, you caused, you made, you created this whole jagat, all the vaichitriam in the jagat you created. Now we understand why it is. Because that which is unchanging in the 3 states, that unchanging is you. And it is from that all this comes. Not only the fact of the waker, not only the dreamer, not only the sleeper, but everything, all the objects of experience in this jagat created. Ataha tu jatam sakalam vichitram. Now you know this is the Tat-pada. Ishavasyam idagum sarvam. Yet that was created by that Parameshwara. That Parameshwara is you. Now you understand where you put Parameshwara. moved from Tvampada into slowly Tatpada. Tatpada is to be understood. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. If you are the creator of everything, when Shastra makes the statement, I am interpreting it as saying, I, within this body, mind, sense complex, is the creator of everything. I said that one. That's how we reject that. So you go through this process of saying, okay, I am what? I am the dreamer, I am the waker, I am the sleeper. And you understand that they are mutually exclusive states. States of what? Of that one jiva which is common across all of them. Because of which the waker is possible, the dreamer is possible, the sleeper is possible, and the objects that the waker experiences are possible, the objects that the dreamer experiences are possible, and the state in which Ananda is seen in Sushupti is possible. So slowly, Brahmaji is bringing us to understanding Tatpada. From Tvampada. Bhagavad Gita also does the same thing. First 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita predominantly talks about the Tvampada. Only from the 7th chapter, Bhagavan starts introducing himself as Jagat Karan. And from the 13th chapter onward, you link the two. We also do this here. So, Tataha tu jatam sakalam vichitram. All the Vaichitriam that you see in the deep sleep state, in the waking state, in the dream state, everything. What you see in the state, what you experience in the state, what you perceive in the state is both the experiencer and the experienced. And the experience itself. All because of you. And then he goes on to say, who is this you? How do you define this you? Not the waker, not the sleeper, not the dreamer. What is you? Kevala Chaitanya Rupam. Only Kevala Chaitanya, just consciousness. If somebody visualize consciousness, you can't. Not available for visualization. It's not a form. It's not available for thought. It's not available for speech. You try to find it through words, it fails. You try to apply your mind, it fails. What a difficult thing. You say, Swamiji, that it fails, it cannot, not available for mind, not available for senses, not available. So like, how in the world am I ever going to know this? Only through Shastra. Yatho vacho nivartante aprapya manasasaha. You apply words. Goes thus far, can't describe you, Chaitanya. You try to use the mind to try and gain that knowledge. Ille, come back. Aprapya, not having gained that. Manasasa. This is in fact a very big question people ask. You say this is not available for words, not available for thought, not available for senses, not available for the mind. Those are the only things I have. How am I going to learn? So what is the nature of this? Adharam. That which is the very substratum. Bad words, there are no other words, unfortunately. That which is like the rope on which the snake appears. Like the clay on which pot appears, not on which the pot appears, from which the pot appears. It is the adhisthana. The only thing that is existent. Everything else looks like they're existent. Therefore, they are all aghatita gatita. I am the only thing that exists. I am the adharam. I am the adhisthana. I go to the gold jewelry shop. Only thing that exists there is the gold. Everything else is nama rupa. Can I not see this? This whole jagat, so many things I see. So many things I experience. I, the experiencer, all the objects of experience and the experience itself are there only because I is there. Chaitanyam is there. Chinmayam. You've all heard of Swami Chinmayananda. Now you know what that name means. Purely Chaitanyam. I is Chinmayam. Because it is the adhara, it is from which everything else appears to be there. Adharam. Anandam. Not only the basis for everything. The very Swarupa is Anandam. Anandam means Anantam. That which is not limited by space, time, or vastu. Desha kala vastu anavachinna. You cannot possibly apply any limitation to it. Any limitation that you apply to yourself would mean something else is possible. You cannot have I plus something else. There is no something else. I have read somewhere that I, Brahman, plus Maya is Ishvara. I is the only existent thing. Maya is, another order of reality altogether. Maya is not even an entity. Maya is not something separate from Brahman. You. Maya is only, use various words like illusion, delusion. Maya is not another Brahman. Nor is the same thing as Brahman. You can say, yes, Maya is Brahman, because everything is Brahman. For this Anantam. Anandam is only Anantam. Because that you, Tataha, from there only, Tataha to Jatam Sakalam. Adharam, Anandam, Akhanda Bodham. Khanda is parts, divided. That which cannot be divided is indivisible. partless. Everything else in the Jagat will have parts. It's all assembled, put together. It can be broken down to the next page, which is why any knowledge that you have in the Jagat can never lead one to say, I am no more ignorant of this subject. Because whatever that you've learned in a particular subject can be broken down further. And that you learn can be broken down further. Therefore, any intelligent person who studies a particular subject, somebody who studies a virus, can go on his entire life and still not know everything about virus. Some new mutation will come. We've all been experiencers of these new mutations lately. So nobody who studies a subject in this Jagat can make a statement, I know everything, there is nothing more to know. But if you understand yourself, if you understand the nature of the self, as Brahman, as Om, as I, as Atma, there is nothing more to know. There's nothing more to know, there's nothing more to do. Therefore, in other places we've studied, that knowledge, knowing which, it is as though I know everything. There is nothing more to know. That's the only time you can make the statement. I am no more ignorant. This is why it is called Paravidya. Everything else becomes Aparavidya. So, Adharam, Anandam, Akhanda Bodham. I, the very cause, very adhishthanam of everything that I think I am, and everything that else around me, which I think is non-I, is also the same thing. All of them fall under the category of Mithya Jagat, including my physical body, my Sukshma Sharira, my senses, my thoughts, my mind, everything. And that I has to be Akhanda. Once you understand that Akhanda, then not possible saying my Atma and another Atma. There is no other possible. It is Akhanda. Like space, it's indivisible. Here is slowly introducing us to that idea of Tat. Because it says, Adharam, Anandam, Akhanda Bodham, Yasmin, in which Layam Yati Puratrayancha. We talk about the three Sharira, Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and Karna Sharira, Sharira Trayam. And we say that these Stula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira go into Laya, into the Karna Sharira. Punascha Jatam comes back. But including Karna Sharira, including everything else, that in which they all become Laya, that Tasmin is already brought us to the beginning of understanding Tattvamasi. Starting from Tvam-pada, bringing us to Tat-pada and saying, listen, now you see who you are. Remember, Brahmaji is teaching Arshavidyalaya, a very great scholar himself. And thanks to him, we are also reading. What is the Tat-pada? More detail. That Tat-pada which is the Jagat Karanam. That Tat-pada which is the Adharam, Adhishthanam. That Tat-pada whose Swarupa is Anandam. That Tat-pada is I. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. That Brahma is Atma, I. What kind of Tat-pada is that? Now I can try and imagine myself. Despite the fact it's not available for the mind, available for the thoughts, available for not available for words and so on. Can you go back to that thing? Etasmad jayate pranaha.
एतस्मात् जायते प्राणः
Manas sarvendriyani cha.
मनः सर्वे इन्द्रियाणि च
Kam vayurjyotirapaha.
कं वायुज्योतिरापः
Prithvi vishvasya dharini.
पृथिवी विश्वस्य धारिणी.
Does that sound familiar, this particular mantra? We studied this mantra in another Upanishad. Same mantra, identical words. In Mundaka Upanishad. Yeah, also we're talking about the three states. And brings it to the same Tatpada. And that Tatpada, what is the nature of that Tatpada? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. It is the Jagat Karanam. That I am the Jagat Karanam. I cause everything to happen. Etasmat. From this what? This Adharam Anantam Akhanda Bodham, into which everything goes into Laya, including my Sharira. Now, you be very careful about using the word my Sharira. Everybody's Sharira is my Sharira. That's called Virat. The form, physical form of everything in the Jagat. Sentient and insentient. Everything is insentient, all forms are insentient. All of them together is called Virat. Individually, it's called Vishwa. All the Sthula Sharira, called Virat. All the Sukshma Sharira together are called Hiranyagarbha or Sutratma. You know what is a sutra? It's the thread that connects. Sutre Manigana Iva, we saw in Gita. That which is common in all the beings or Sutratma. From that Tatpada, everything arises, we said earlier. Tatastu jatam sakalam vichitram. He goes on to explain. We have seen in Tattva Bodha, how this whole Mithya Jagat comes about. First, there is Prathamaja, Brahmaji, firstborn. Then all the collective Sukshma Sharira. Sharira doesn't necessarily mean a human body, everything. As Hiranyagarbha. We saw that saying there are one way of looking at it is Panchabhutas. That also we will talk about here. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, and Prithvi. They are in their subtle form, not the physical water that we know, but the very content of water, content of space, content of Vayu, content of Agni, content of earth, Prithvi, from which you cannot make this earth directly. That goes through a process of solidification called Panchikarna. So you have these subtle elements from which you create the gross elements. And these form the basis for everything else. From the subtle elements come all the subtle components. From the gross element comes all the gross components. So you have Hiranyagarbha and Virat. I don't know if Virat Kohli recognizes his name, but he needs to understand his name means a lot. So etasmad jayate pranaha manas sarvendriyani cha kham vayu jyotirapaha prithvi vishvasya bhari. You will lead into the Statpada as Jagat Karanam and eventually into Nirguna Brahman, which is then I. Then with that, the equation is complete. See. We will look at it tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.